Welcome to Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit community, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, www.kauffman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. It was 2014 when a white supremacist acted on his hate for Jewish people, and he murdered 3 innocent people. 14-year-old Reed Underwood, his grandfather, Dr. William Corporon, who were headed to a local singing competition at the Jewish Community Center, and then Terry Lamano, who was going into Village Shalom to visit her elderly mother. The shooter failed to kill Jews, as all 3 were Christians, but hate did not win either. Instead, those hateful actions inspired the creation of what is now known as 7 Days, a Kansas City nonprofit that overcomes hate by promoting kindness and understanding through education and dialogue. Now, 9 years later, the organization has grown from its infancy into a young adult with a few twists and turns along the way. And joining us to share the journey of this nonprofit is its president and co-founder, Mindy Corporon, and 7 Days Director of Youth Engagement, Jill Anderson. Welcome to you both. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Let's start. I don't want to go back and necessarily dwell on the hateful act, but I do think it's important to touch base there as we seem to still be dealing with so much hate in our world, acted out in any number of ways. Mindy, how does the organization try to balance the positivity with so much of the negativity that surrounds us?
Well, the positivity that we have, Ruth, is really through our acts of kindness that we've created. We've created events over the last 9 years, as you've mentioned. So we had live events for from 2015 until 2020 when COVID happened. We had live events all the time. We had 7 in a row every April, and it was a lot to manage, but a lot of fun and a significant amount of education for our community. And we focused on bringing people together and letting them understand one another better. So I think that was the positivity. And to focus on that just briefly, originally we very much focused on making sure that people had access to understanding someone who might not be of the same faith as they were. We focused a lot on religions and non-religions. So we even including agnostic and atheist, and then all facets of religion. Paganism, we had an event on paganism one time from one of our youth members. So that's where we focus, is on education and mostly in faith. And then, as you said, we've grown. In 2020, we went virtual. And then in 2021, we were still a little bit more virtual. And then in 2022, we were live again. And in 2023, we'll be live. Our positivity now really significantly reigns from helping adults, but specifically youth. And I know that's why you have Jill on, to talk about and to teach them how to be kindness influencers. And they're kindness influencers from having more awareness about the other.
Well, Jill, that was a great hit right to you. I do want to talk about what 7 Days is doing specifically with youth, but I want to share with our particular audience, there were even internal shifts within 7 Days from what you had been doing to what you do now. If you can share a little bit about that and how that transition was, because other nonprofits face those kinds of things over their life.
Right. Yes. So my journey through 7 Days has been many faceted. I think I've worn almost every hat possible. So I started as a volunteer that first year, and then I got a little more involved and was a committee chair. After that, so all of 7 Days was run by volunteers. So Mindy Alana Mueller, and I, at that point, decided to divide up all the committees, and we all three volunteered by working through a small group that we oversaw, and we did that for a few years. And at that point, Mindy decided she wanted to hire somebody that would kind of oversee it. We were growing and needed somebody that could handle that. And so I told her I'd be happy to help in that regard. So I was the executive director, started right before COVID, went through COVID, and really found that my passion lies with students and youth, kind of working with the kids. And so this last year, I became the director of youth engagement, and am really happy trying to pull more engagement, really get kids involved as much as possible.
Well, I think it's so cool that 7 days, you really have youth engaged. Can you share a little bit about what they're doing? And then I want to know how you as the adult get kids who are like all over the place to kind of do what you hope they'll do.
Right. Well, that's really hard. Right now, our major focus is on high schoolers. So we have a lot of resources for elementary age kids and middle school age kids. And we hope that they engage with us through our resources that are on our website. And we do a lot of outreach of just really letting schools, parents, organizations, clubs know what those resources are, that they're there, that can be used. But with high schoolers, we have something that we call the Kindness Youth Leadership Team. And there's an application process that starts. I really try to work within the school year because I know summers are a little bit more of their time off and they want to do that. And we know they need that. So at the beginning of the school year, we have an application that goes out, and we last year accepted more kids than we have ever before. So we have about 30 members on our Kindness Youth Leadership Team from a variety of schools on both the Kansas and Missouri side. Again, it's high schoolers, so freshmen through seniors. We always have new members, and we also always have returning members. So, for example, I have a couple of kids that are 4-year KYLT members, meaning they started as freshmen and they're seniors now. We also have first-year kids. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We want to get as much diversity in our Kindness Youth Leadership Team for a few reasons. One is we really want them to teach each other about each other. So we have, as Mindy has pointed out, a variety of religious backgrounds, like I said, a variety of ages, a variety of cultural backgrounds, gender, you name it. We try to get that diversity in there. We really want these kids to become friends with somebody that is different than them. And that gives them that opportunity to learn about the other and understand that differences exist and can be positive instead of negative. So that's our goal with our Kindness Youth Leadership Team, is to start by introducing them to each other, but then giving them opportunities to learn more about differences within cultures.
So you're not just gathering in a room saying, hey, kids, get to know each other.
No. We have guest speakers that come in and talk about a variety of topics. We've had people that have come in and talked about, like the JCRB has came in and talked about differences and how groups can feel marginalized. And she talked about it from the Jewish perspective, but opened it up to talking about it from any perspective. So we have kids that are have disabilities that expressed how that felt. We have kids of different races who expressed how that felt. And then we had kids that said, I'd never thought of it from that perspective. I'm a Jewish kid, but I hadn't thought that having a disability makes you the other.
That's got to be so rewarding to sit in a room and just kind of listen and hear when they talk. Somehow I think when an adult enters the room, it's like, oh, well, I don't know that I want to talk. I have had the fortune of being in the room where it happens, so to speak, to take a musical lyric from Hamilton and just kind of watch them interact. And you have them doing more than quote unquote informal lessons. They're actually planning your events or involved with that, correct?
Yes. So they have like three main goals as our Kindness Youth Leadership Team. And the one that you're talking about now is planning our events. So we have two big events that come up every April. And we do those in April because that was when the murders happened. And we always want to tie back to our original purpose. But half the kids help plan and execute the breakfast, which is on April 5th, Wednesday, April 5th this year. And then half the kids help plan our walk, which is on Sunday, April 16th this year. And they plan the decorations. They are in the program. They each, or a lot of them, have speaking parts. And really get to know the background of how to plan an event and be a community volunteer, which is really important because we are really creating kindness influencers. So our hope is then they go back and express what they've been doing to their friends, family, and spheres of influence.
Mindy, there are some other opportunities, though, for youth engagement in a different way. Can you share about your competitions?
Yes, I will share about our competitions. And then I want to circle back about a couple of things for nonprofits, the way you mentioned that nonprofits might be interested in the morphing and changing. I have a couple of things I want to add. But so, yes, so we have since 2016, we have had a button competition. So it's a button art competition. And high school students throughout the metropolitan area are asked to submit 8 button art pieces, and they submit them digitally. They do them in a really interesting and variety of ways. Sometimes they build them and then they take a picture of them. Sometimes they do them on a some kind of graphic platform. Sometimes it's a pencil drawing. They're all extremely unique every year. And then we have judges who select them. So no one from the foundation does any of the selecting. So we have outside judges who have art background and or a marketing background. And then some people who have said, yes, I'd love to volunteer and help. So we do have outside judges that pick those button winners. And then we have a kindness scholarship, Kindness Action Scholarship as well. And the Kindness Action Scholarship is specifically for high school seniors. So the button winners get an award, they get prize money. And then the Kindness Action Scholarship students, the seniors in high school, we award them $1,000 for a winning essay that was written based on what action they took and created a ripple of kindness. So first they have to create an activity of some kind and involve other people and then write an essay about it. And then they submit the essay and photos to us. Again, we also have outside judges who review all the material that they submit in their application, and we pick up to 5 high school seniors, and then their school of choice or their further education, whatever it might be. It could be a trade school, it could be a junior college, it could be a university. We provide that school $1,000 for that student. So those are the other 2 avenues that we're pursuing right now, and we have pursued consistently for the last 3 years. Can I speak about the foundation now a little bit?
Absolutely. I was hoping you would just go ahead and segue and to be completely honest with the audience, again, the 3 of us do know each other. So Mindy, I'm allowing you to squirrel.
Okay, I'll squirrel. I'm going to squirrel. So, well, I thought it was interesting when you said that other nonprofits might want to hear about the changes, because 9 years is a long time to be a grassroots foundation. And as a foundation, there were times when we barely had enough money in the bank and I didn't know if we were going to survive. And then now there are times, I can look at the bank account and take a breath and be like, okay, we've got some stuff going on and it's going okay. But what we found, I think what I found as a leader I think I've always found this as a leader myself. And then along with board management, we've always had a board. We've either had 6 members, 9 members, and today we have 15 members of our board. And as a leader, I find it very important that even though someone wants to follow our mission and they want to either volunteer or they're accepted on the board and they follow our mission, is that we also put them in the right seat. So you go back to the book, Good to Great, and being on the right seat in the bus. And Jill was fantastic at everything, has always been fantastic at everything she does. She always pursues everything to the highest level. And several years in a row, she and myself and a handful of volunteers, including you, Ruth, we did everything for 7 events, 7 days in a row. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And so when Jill let me know that her passion was mostly youth and really focused on youth, and could she focus on that? We had some great discussions about how to engage youth more effectively. And frankly, Jill could not do that and manage the events at the same time. They are 2 very different creatures. And so last year, 7 days, had the great opportunity to raise just enough funding that our board agreed we could hire outside planners. And so we hired Coneflower out of Lawrence. Sarah Bishop and Catherine Clark are helping us. And what they came in to do is the back office administrative work of the event planning. And if anyone is listening and they've planned an event and they aren't an event planner, but you are planning the event, to have someone do the admin work is great. And what I look at and the board looks at with a lot of gratitude is that we're really allowing Jill Anderson and all of her love of youth and mentoring and teaching and planning to be totally focused on the Kindness Youth Leadership Team. Their mentoring, their activities, rather than trying to handle both, which she did brilliantly. But we were growing significantly, and we grew from last year to this year. So that's a little bit of morphing that I think is and growing and changing and evolution, if you will, that we've gone through with a lot of thought on what is our mission, who are we trying to reach, who are our donors, et cetera. You think about all of that as a nonprofit, and how do we communicate to them and who's communicating to them? And Jill Anderson is just the best youth engagement director. So I hope she stays many more years.
Well, I have to say, Jill Anderson is the director of youth engagement for 7 days. Mindy Corporon is co-founder and president. And Jill, you'll have to play this podcast over and over again, ever when you have a bad day. I think Mindy really set that up to be your message in your mind. Touche. I'll hire you, Mindy. You can do that for me offline. Jill, I do want to ask, though, how was it for you to kind of transition from being over everything as a nonprofit leader to, gee, I can take a breath and really do what my passion is? Not that you weren't passionate for the other, but
right.
How was that shift? How's that been for you?
Well, it's been wonderful in that I love the youth part, and I love being able to, as Mindy said, really hone in. And thank you, Mindy. That was over the top. You did not need to say all that, but thank you. I appreciate it.
It's all true. And I think that leaders need to pay attention to who's on their team and what they want to do.
Right. And I feel like Mindy really listened. And it's been interesting. So Ruth, I could ask you that question as well of how I've done on that, because I do, as anybody that is working in nonprofit and is in the leadership role, they are already carrying people that are doing a lot. And so it's interesting I keep saying, stay in my lane. And I want to be helpful to what I've done before and say, hey, here's how we've done it in the past. If you want to do that, that's great. If you don't, that's fine. But I don't want to overstep. And so there's always that little bit of, do I tell them this or do I not? And do I just stay in my lane? And so that is something that I think all nonprofit workers probably, have to go through, because there is probably a lot of overlap with small organizations. I will say I've definitely been involved with larger ones, and you can definitely easily stay in your lane. But with smaller ones, you do put on a lot of different hats. So it's been wonderful. And it's also been educational to really think about how do I approach and what is my lane. So that has been a great experience.
Well, I would imagine as well with a kindness organization, people want to jump in and be helpful. That's part of your mission, yet you're still trying to drive towards mission and events and all of that. Mindy, I wanted to ask you about your board for 7 days and the focus of how you created it. You talked about from small to big and how you put people in, quote unquote, the right seats to keep the bus moving forward. So can you talk a little bit about your board and its look and feel?
Yes. I asked a few key people in town and then past board members their thoughts on expanding the board. And what I realized was needed. We had a 6-member board for several years and then 9. And what I realized is I wanted a working board. I realized I did not want any longer just an advisory board. I appreciate advice and I welcome it and I welcome input, but I really was in need of a working board. And so I didn't understand that when we first started the foundation. And so I had a little bit of education on my own and being on a foundation board. I was on 2 foundation boards at the time of the murders, and then I exited them, and then we started this. But I didn't have any, education on how to run a board other than my experience being on a board. So when I realized and I heard feedback, I think you're really seeking a working board. That is what I say when I do an interview for someone. And so I'll just tell you our process that we go through, and it's worked really well. And we're actually getting ready to do that again. So we have a few people rolling off in 2023. And so what I did was I created an application. So it's a form. I think I use, Microsoft Forms. And so I have an application that people can fill out. It was a little bit of, play with what do I really want to know and what do I think they should provide. So I have an application in place. And then I sent that link with a personal message to companies in town, to their leadership, their human resources department and or their C-suite, and asked, are you trying to train any of your employees and or younger generation or anyone, or do you have any board development plans for employees? And so we received several applicants because of that. For instance, a friend of mine, Gail Packer, is the CEO at Terracon, and she sent the application to John Pretzman, and he's been a board member. So he joined our board. And then Kelsey Parker now, she's changed names because she got married and has had a baby. So I think of her as her first name, but Kelsey Parker, she's with Forvis now. So they were BKD and now they're Forvis, the company, Forvis. And I reached out to Tonde Letterman at BKD at the time. And I said, we're seeking someone who might fill a board membership and be a treasurer. And BKD, but now it's Forvis. They have a great nonprofit place in their channel in their company, a division. That's the right word, division. And so she recommended Kelsey, and we got Kelsey. So I think and I hadn't thought about reaching out to corporations, even though I know and have this great network of from my involvement in women who mean business. But that's helped tremendously, is to reach out and say, do you have training, or do you want any of your individuals to be trained? So we've done that. Now, specifically diversity. So because of how the mission of 7 days, and because how we were started due to a hate crime, due to a faith-based hate crime, I have specifically focused, and now the board understands that when we're looking to replace new board members, we are looking for significant diversity, and we focus on that. So same as the youth, the Kindness Youth Leadership Team. So gender diversity, generational diversity. So we just asked Samantha and Jake, who are our youngest members, we asked them at the board meeting the other night, now, how old are you all? And they said, so they are 23 and 25 years old. And I did not ask our oldest member how old they are, but I believe we definitely have someone in their 60s and kind of late 60s. And so we have from retired to just now graduating college. So in terms of generation, and then we have different faiths. So we have someone who is Hindu, we have Jewish people, we have Muslim, we have Christian and Buddhist. And I'm excited to tell you that Lama Matt, who represents us as a Buddhist, he's going to wear his robes to the breakfast this year. And we talked about that. He said, I really want people to know, that I'm a Lama and that I'm a Buddhist, and so I'm going to wear my robes. Is that okay? And I said, I think it's fantastic. So we do focus on that, and I pay attention to who's rolling off, what kind of what do they represent, who are they, and then how would we best replace them, looking at the architecture of the board members at the time.
I love the word you use. It's really architecture, or
it is,
or a kaleidoscope, and to go at your board and look at it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion means a whole lot of things. And
yes, and I'm just going to jump in and say Jill attended some great educational events at Nonprofit Connect, and she came back to me with a skill set table. And so when we onboard someone, we do look for what is their talent. What is their skill? So we look at their diversity, their gender, their faith, maybe their culture, their background. Are they at a corporation? Are they retired? Etc. We look at all these different facets so that we have a great blend, but we also look at their skill set. So for instance, Kelsey, I can just mention her again, is our treasurer. Well, she's an accountant, and so that's perfect. And then Molly Kerr joined our board, and she's with BOK, and she's very financially minded as well. She runs the wealth management division. John Pretzman was the head of HR at Terracon, so he's strategy. So these are just some ideas. Bill Timaeus has been a writer. Enos Eunice is a writer. We look at what is their personal skill set, where are they spending their work time, and then they bring that skill to our board. And so that was great education that Jill took the time and effort to learn when she was in the executive director role. And then she brought that to me, because that was something we were not doing at the time.
Well, I would be remiss before we end our time together. If folks want to know more about the organization, if they want to engage, get involved, if kids want to apply, where is the best place for them to go?
She's talking about kids. Yeah, she's talking about students. I was
talking everybody, if they want to be part of it.
Well, I would say just the website is 7days.org, SEVENDAYS.org. So that's our website. And then I will give Jill the opportunity to give a little bit more direction for Kindness Youth Leadership Team.
Right. Well, I would say following us on social media is huge. Because we're a grassroots organization, we give a lot of notification through our social media. So when the Kindness Youth Leadership Team application comes out, we put it on social media. When the Button Art competition starts, we put it on social media. When the scholarship opportunity comes out, we put it on social media. So following us at Give 7 Days, GIVESEVENDAYS, on Instagram, Facebook, I believe that's the same tag for LinkedIn. Yes. Those are our main avenues. So anybody that's interested in finding out about those and don't want to continually recheck our website, that's a great way. And then we have wonderful Ruth Biggis, who will put all of our information and give press releases and try to get media to pick up what's going on with us. But those, to me, are the best ways to get a hold of us and to find out what's going on. We do put it on our website, but we also share those events live when they're starting to come out through social media.
I'm going to add that we also, sorry, Ruth, I'm going to add real quickly. We also have a wonderful, wonderful administrator, Susie Ratliff, who started with us last summer. What a dream, right? She's just been a dream. And so we have an email. We were sending emails before, but that was my responsibility. And so they would come out kind of few and far between, maybe once a month. But Susie has taken over our email campaign. So as Jill is saying, you can join us on social media, and you can also submit to info at 7days.org, or you can click and join our email list. And so, for instance, she just sent out an email to all of our followers, and she's going to be sending out a new one next week. And that will be totally focused on registration for the walk. So, she said, okay, I want to do registration for the walk. And she's taken that lead from me, which is great, and learned how to use our contact management system and how to communicate with the followers. The people want to know what's going on at 7 days.
Well, Mindy and Joe, we thank you both for making that ripple of kindness to change the world and keep moving forward.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you for joining us on KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit. This KC Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. If you'd like to be a guest on KC Cares or to find out more about us, visit our website, kccaresonline.org, and spread the love. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and Instagram at KC Cares Online. And don't forget, you can catch us on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 and 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on KC Cares.